Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Talk Soccer to Me podcast, an American soccer fan's perspective on everything that's happening in European and international soccer. The show is hosted by yours truly, Jack Alt. Before we preview the show, make sure to follow Talk Soccer to Me on all social medias and streaming services. It's at Talk Soccer to Me on Twitter and TikTok. It's at Talk Soccer to Me podcast on Instagram. To listen again, Talk Soccer to Me is listed on Spotify, Amazon Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts. We do have a YouTube account that we've slowly been building up. It's just the podcast again, and we're going to be posting shorts on there the same way we post Instagram Reels and TikToks. Follows and positive ratings will go a really long way for the podcast if you are listening and you enjoy. So just thanks to all who follow and listen. But if we get into the show, today is Tuesday, April 8th. By the time this is reaching your ears, we'll have 2 match weeks of Premier League soccer to cover in this episode. So there's going to be a lot. That's 20 games in total. There were Cup semifinals in Spain, Germany, and Italy, as well as league play from those respective countries over the course of the weekend. And we're going to kickstart our episode talking Premier League action from Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of last week. And then we're getting everything else from the weekday games. And then once we hit the point where we're transitioning from weekday games to weekend games, I'll acknowledge that. But let's get started. First up was Arsenal versus Fulham. Right off the bat with this game, I thought this is one of those ones where that mid-block would kind of destroy Arsenal. It would be a game where Arsenal really can't get into a good flow, get into anything. Mikel Merino, who actually has really impressed me as a makeshift center forward for Arsenal, scored again. Arsenal took a 1-0 lead going into halftime. Unfortunately, though, and I think this is the one thing that every Arsenal fan is going to take away from this game, is Gabriel Magalhaes went down with a hamstring injury. Hamstring injury that will not only prevent him from playing Real Madrid in the Champions League this week, but will keep him out for the rest of the season. I definitely think there's been an argument to be made that Saliba and Gabriel's center back pairing for Arsenal has been amongst one of the best, if not the best, in Europe. So Gabriel going down for Arsenal is like a really big blow for them. This is going to be tough. I mean, Ben White is coming back from injury. You got Calafiori, Kivior, Miles Lewis-Skelly, Tierney, Zinchenko. Like, there are plenty of defenders in the room for Arsenal, but what Gabriel's done as a left-sided center back has been great. I mean, personally, I'd move Saliba to the left, kick Ben White back in with Timber on the right, but we'll see. We'll see. I mean, obviously, it's going to be Mikel Arteta's decision going into these Champions League games, and I'm really interested to see what he decides to do with that. So, I mean, Arsenal's up 1-0 at halftime. You had some good, you had some bad. They were really in control for most of this game. Bukayo Saka makes his return. He got about 30 minutes, and within no time, ball comes in. Gabriel Martinelli actually got a phenomenal assist on this. Just a little flick, Brazilian flair. Bukayo Saka standing right in front of the goal, puts his head on it. I mean, it was truly a thunderous celebration at the Emirates for Arsenal's star boy to return, looking as good as ever. He really is just a world-class right winger. Yeah, I mean, Fulham had some chances late. Rodrigo Muniz scored in the 94th minute. Even with the late goal, at no point did Fulham really feel threatening. Every time they tried to get a breakaway, which they've been good at this season, Arsenal's defense, even after Gabriel went down, was just stout in stopping that. Going to move on in the midweek program. Wolves hosted West Ham. These were the 2 lowest teams in the table outside of the relegation zone. And even though the gap to the last couple teams is pretty large, I think just for pride's sake, neither team wanted to lose this. Jared Bowen for West Ham actually found Evan Ferguson in the box pretty early. It probably should have turned into something, but it just seems that the Brighton loanee overran it and prevented the good first chance of the game. Wolves then had a good chance a couple minutes later. Emmanuel Agbadu got a good header on it, but really wasn't able to do anything with it. Both teams were going for it. I mean, they were fighting. It was a pretty open game early on. Jorgen Strand Larsen then did score his 10th goal of the season for Wolves. Just a nice strike. Found the right deflection. And, I always say, and I'm going to say it a couple other times in this podcast, you can't score unless you shoot. I have no problem with deflection goals. Again, you can't score unless you shoot. Monetzi for Wolves had a chance a few minutes later after a strong run in the box by Strand Larsen, but his shot hit the underside of the bar. They weren't able to make it 2-0. And it was really all Wolves to end the first half of this game. Even coming out of halftime, West Ham looked uninspired. And then towards the end of the game, West Ham actually decided that they were going to try to finally score. Thomas Suchek had West Ham's finest chance. He missed the goal altogether. Wolves had the last chance of the game themselves, but it didn't really matter. They won the game. Finished Wolves 1, West Ham 0. This is a big result for Wolves. They were really starting to separate themselves from the relegation pack. I mean, this was a team that was unable to win in their first, I believe, 10 games of the season, and at times looked real threatened to be relegated. And at the time on Tuesday, when this game was over, they were 12 points ahead of Ipswich Town. So this result was tremendous. And I'm going to talk about West Ham now. I wondered if later in the episode was the better time after their second game of the season, but we're going to get into this now. West Ham seem lost. Now, there's several other teams at the tail end of this table that aren't going to be relegated that I would also put into the lost category with West Ham, but not every team. Like, I don't think Everton's lost. Everton doesn't feel lost as a club. I feel optimistic about Everton. Manchester United and Tottenham, they're too big to fail. They'll come back. But West Ham is kind of who I'm worrying about at the bottom of this table. They sold Declan Rice, and they rebounded well with the Conference League title. They decided David Moyes wasn't the man. They go through another manager, and they've got Graham Potter. And I have a lot of faith in Graham Potter. I think he's a great manager. I think he did great stuff with Brighton. I actually don't hate his time at Chelsea. Chelsea fans may not agree with me, but bias runs everything. It runs everyone's opinion. It ruins everything. Ruins everyone's opinion. I watched this West Ham side, and it's uninspiring. They don't look good, even though they have good players. Jared Bowen and Lucas Paqueta play well. Kudus plays well. Fulkrug's a good striker. On paper, they're good. Areola's good. But they just seem broken. And I don't know if it's the wear and tear of a poor season. A season where I think everyone that was a West Ham fan or a board member would be looking to push for European spots. Because they just haven't. If Wolves pick up a couple more points, they might be the lowest team that doesn't get relegated. That's 17th spot. I don't know what the direction of this club is. West Ham should be taking steps to become a big club. They play in one of the largest stadiums in Europe. Their financial backing's decent. They make a lot of money. But in the last few weeks, or frankly, you could probably say the whole season, West Ham look uninspiring. They look like they're missing something. They're missing that spark. 9 wins, 7 draws, 14 losses. This just hasn't been good enough. It hasn't been a good season for West Ham. And I'm worried going forward where they're going to be next year. Whether they're going to be a team that can push for Europe the way the Bournemouth, Nottingham Forest, and Aston Villas of the world, clubs that should be kind of below West Ham, are. Or does West Ham sit here again next year? I don't think you get rid of Graham Potter. This season's not his fault. But next year I'm worried about him. Especially if they lose Paqueta over the summer and a couple other good players. Bowen's going to go down as a club legend, but does he want to be on a team that's finishing 16th, 17th? Nobody does. So I got the panic buttons out. We're a little worried. That's my West Ham rant. I don't watch West Ham, or I don't watch West Ham and think this is a good team. I think this is a poor team. And it shouldn't be a poor team. But that's enough about them. Let's move on in the week. Nottingham Forest hosted Manchester United, a potential Champions League team versus a bottom half of the table team. If I was to tell you 10 years ago who was who, you wouldn't believe me. And before I could even really write anything else going into this game, Anthony Elanga, a former Manchester United man, got the ball in his own half, playing for Nottingham Forest, ran past 2 defenders, pushed off one, and then calmly finished it in the bottom corner of the net to take the lead over Manchester United 5 minutes into the game. Tempo was set. In the first 30 minutes, Man United had shots, but it was nothing too crazy. There was a looping Diego Dallo header from a corner that hit the crossbar. Again, though, nothing that would worry a Nottingham Forest fan. I think no one really expected that Dallo cross or header to be any good. And it was an exceptional first half of defending from Nottingham Forest. They were willing to sit back and absorb all of Manchester United's pressure, and they did it well. They were never giving Man United a good sniff of the goal. They were constantly setting up their forwards for the counterattack. And the first half kind of just wrapped up like that. There was nothing in the first 25 minutes of the second half that was really worth writing about either. Manchester United's attempts seemed desperate and lacking. United actually got better at defending the counter as the game went on. And then Mason Mount comes in. He had a shot in the 80th minute that I actually really liked. It was a low curler that I jumped out of my chair. And that was the first one in that game that I really thought was the threat. And I do want to like highlight one really specific cross. It was a pass from Ibrahim Sangari of Nottingham Forest to Nico Williams. It didn't result in anything, but anytime you see something where the vision and the placement of a 50-yard pass hitting someone on the run is perfect, it's just incredible in the eyes. It's Andrea Pirlo-esque. It was beautiful. Beautiful to watch. And then the big-headed beauty himself, a player I actually enjoy and root for, who I think has gotten an unfair shtick, an unfair kind of time in his playing career, Harry Maguire. He comes on for Lenny Yoro, his young potential replacement, and they slot him up front, which, I mean, makes sense. He's a big guy. He's good at getting headers. He's good at getting duels up there. And he found himself on a header in the 92nd minute, had the chance in the 6-yard box, and his header went wide. It shouldn't have. But, I mean, hey, he's not a forward. But it should have went in the back of the net, ultimately. Then again, in the 97th minute, a long kick goes in the box for Manchester United. And who does it land at the feet of? You guessed it, Harry Maguire. Does he get a good kick? Yeah. Does he tie up the game? No. Murillo, actually, the center back for Nottingham Forest, he had a goal line clearance. He was there. He denied Manchester United the tie, and that finished the game. Nottingham Forest won. Manchester United, the great season for Nottingham Forest just continues. They've been phenomenal. Just pleasant to watch. They're really gearing themselves towards a potential Champions League qualification with finishing in the top 5. Because I do think the 5, I say it every week, I think England's going to get 5. I'm pretty confident now, considering I think Chelsea's really going to save that coefficient from any potential shocking non-top 5 finishes. But I'm veering off from what we're supposed to be talking about. Some of these players from Nottingham Forest have just been so good. And I'm going to talk now because this game was a little more positive for them than the game I'm going to speak on later in the episode. Nico Williams at left back has been wonderful all season. Matt Sells has been an incredible keeper. Anthony Elanga looks like a player that Manchester United are just absolutely going to regret giving up. Morgan Gibbs-White as a 10. Ryan Yates in the midfield. I think on paper, some clubs who were of like similar stature, if I may, as Nottingham Forest are better. Like Villa's better on paper, Fulham's better on paper, Bournemouth, Brighton, maybe not Bournemouth, but Brighton, Fulham, and Villa are better than Nottingham Forest on paper. But this team is playing better than any of those teams. And I believe at the end of this game they were sitting third. Not too far behind Arsenal in second. The sky is the Champions League. That's the limit. And I think they're going to achieve it. I really do. This team has been incredible to watch. It's kind of been the story of the season. I think Nottingham Forest finishing in the Champions League is a bigger deal than Liverpool winning the league. They've been fantastic. They've been incredible to watch. Unlike their opponents today. There's the saying that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again. I don't know if that's the actual definition. I don't even know if it was Einstein who said it. I don't feel inclined to look it up. But if I had to attribute a team to that definition, it'd probably be Manchester United. It'd probably be Manchester United for the better part of 10 years now, since Sir Alex Ferguson has left this club. They haven't gotten better. Even when it feels like they take a step forward, the couple decent years under Jose Mourinho, the couple decent years under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and now they're here, 10 years later, and they're not good. This is not a good team. This is not a team that's, frankly, enjoyable to watch. Bruno Fernandes is really good. Casemiro is still decent. I mean, he had a lot of tackles over the last couple weeks. I think Matthias de Ligt was a good signing. I think Lenny Yoro is a signing that has potential, and I think Mazraoui has potential. But this team isn't good. They're not good. The institution of Manchester United, in my opinion, is just fundamentally broken. I mean, that's got to be it. You can rotate the players out. You can change the coaches. You can do whatever you want. But it's the same stuff with this team. It's an it factor, or it's hustle, or it's heart. And people say, oh, they don't play for the badge. They don't do. I mean, they're just not good. It's not a good. I mean, yeah, some of these players might be good individually, but they are not the sum of their part. The sum of their parts is poor. The sum of their parts is a negative. It's a negative number. I feel bad for Ruben Amorim. I mean, she should have never left Portugal. If the results are going to be so poor, they're never going to give the poor guy the time. I mean, what's there to say about Manchester United that hasn't already been said? Club's broken. And the new owners, maybe they'll invest this summer. I mean, investments have really been the problem. The new owners seem to just be slashing money wherever. People losing jobs. It's got to be insanity for Manchester United fans. That's for damn sure. I digress. I mean, I'll probably make that rant a couple more times this season, but we'll move on. We'll move on to Bournemouth hosting Ipswich Town. In this game, I mean, Bournemouth's having a good season. Ipswich Town's not. Ipswich Town most likely going to get relegated. And Bournemouth had all the momentum in the first 15 minutes of the game, but like really no threatening chances. Nothing really felt too dangerous until Ipswich Town gave it away, playing out of the back. And that actually required a pretty good double save by Ipswich Town's keeper. However, less than a minute later, a nice run and a pass from Julio Enciso of Ipswich Town. He led Nathan Broadhead to have a one-on-one with the goalie. He 5-holed him, put it in the back of the net. And in the 34th minute, Ipswich Town was up 1-0. It was an interesting first half. I mean, it was all Bournemouth in the beginning. And then an even game towards the end of it, Ipswich capitalized on the opportunity they had, and it was 1-0. And Bournemouth, like the first half, came out stronger. But again, it didn't result in a goal. And just like in the first half, Ipswich get a decent sequence and they capitalize. A little 1-2 between Liam Delop and Connor Townsend. It goes Delop to Townsend, back to Liam Delop, and he finishes. I know he's been linked with a couple clubs like Manchester United, Chelsea. It was a really good finish. And that was in the 60th minute. Though, I mean, they really didn't get to breathe much because Bournemouth finally got their goal in the 66th minute after Evan Nilsson. He got on a rebound after a shot from, who was it? Cook of Bournemouth. Was deflected by the Ipswich Town goalkeeper. And then, Bournemouth had a couple more chances. Semenyo in the 78th minute. But there really wasn't any merit to any of them. And Bournemouth actually suffered their 4th straight home loss in all competitions, which is kind of crazy. Final score was Ipswich 2, Bournemouth 1. For a club that had Champions League aspirations, this slump's pretty disappointing for Bournemouth. I mean, I know there's results coming up on the weekend, but Europe just kind of looks further and further, especially when they're dropping points in a game like this. And this is awesome for a team like Ipswich Town. Again, this is a really small club to be in the Premier League. Their fans are just going to really enjoy whatever's given to them. They're not going to win a lot. I mean, they've got 4 wins on the year. So to go to another team, go to another ground and win 2-1, play decent, sit back, counter well, get 2 shots on target and score both of them. It's good. It's good for them. It's good for Ipswich. Good for their fans. Good for old Eddie Sheeran and Bournemouth. But we're gonna move on to 2 teams who have been better in the Premier League this season: Brighton and Hove Albion versus Aston Villa. Both teams, I think, pushing kind of more for the Conference League, Europa League spots, but teams pushing for Europe nonetheless. Villa started the game better, but it was pretty open, flowed well. 25th minute, Brighton really showed how to play out of the back with just a wonderful sequence of passes. It didn't really result in anything, but just anytime you see soccer of that quality, you just got to appreciate it. Matoma came in deep, and the Japanese winger is just wonderful. And he was at the heart of it. I mean, playing 1-2s, progressing the ball. It was just fantastic. In like the 30 minutes, the 30s, there was penalty shouts for both teams, but the referee, he said no to both. Brighton then hit the post off a free kick in the 40th minute, and that was really it for the first half. The second half, though, did start with a goal. A ball over the top. Aston Villa's, my notes are poor. Morgan Rogers to Marcus Rashford in the 51st minute is finished wonderfully on a one-on-one after a counterattack. Again, just a really nice finish, calm, composed from Marcus Rashford. I do believe that's his first Premier League goal for Aston Villa. It was a little wild of a sequence then. A couple minutes later in the 54th minute, a little chip. Brighton was attacking. A chip to Matoma, who again we just talked about. It bounced around the box. It gets here, it's there. Villa's trying to clear. It scores. But then you realize it hit Matoma in the arm when he was like receiving it after the chip, and the goal was taken away. The 78th minute, Matty Cash hit Jacob Ramsey down the right wing, gets past the defender, and then he finds the Champions League winning Marco Asensio in the box, who slots it in on the goal for Aston Villa. I felt as though the goal was against the run of play. I thought Brighton was kind of dominating everything towards that, and they kept pushing. They really were trying to, get something out of this game. But there was a counter in the 100th minute. Marco Asensio found Daniel Malen, who put it from the right side of the box to the far left corner of the goal. Ended the game. Aston Villa 3, Brighton 0. Aston Villa are good. Aston Villa are just good. They made really smart signings. Pau Torres and Emilia Martinez are too good for a club like Aston Villa. Sorry, I must have been... Oh my God, have I said Aston Martin more than once? Okay, update. I don't believe I've said Aston Martin more than once. I'm a big Formula One fan, so I think I'm gonna cut myself a little slack for confusing Aston Villa with Aston Martin for anyone else who likes Formula One. Though I would say Aston Villa Football Club is better than the Aston Martin Racing Team. Lance Stroll definitely wouldn't get into this side. It's a little worlds colliding for you. But yeah, I mean, this Villa team, top to bottom, Matty Cash, Lucas Digne, John McGinn, Yuri Tielemans. I mean, I remember when he was at Leicester and they got relegated, I thought he'd go to a bigger club. I mean, you got Ali Watkins, scored a game winner in the semifinals of the Euros, the European Championships, coming off the bench. Marcus Rashford and Marco Asensio are just fantastic signings. They're both on loan. But they're getting the job done. Whether it's if Villa can make a run in the Champions League quarterfinals next week, or just put themselves back in a position to qualify for the Champions League. And I mean, everyone loves Marcus Rashford. Marcus Rashford's a good guy, and he fit that Manchester United player who was struggling and really getting a hard time because of it. So I just love to see a player like that doing well, and he is. That's good. Villa are good. Good team. Brighton are a good team too, but they're not as good this year. I mean, there's a 4-point gap by the end of the week, but they're just that little bit better. And I mean, the fact that also they went on the road and did that in Brighton's house is saying something in the American Express Stadium. But we're gonna go to another stadium that actually is kind of shaped pretty similar. Manchester City's stadium. I'm blanking right now on the name of the stadium. Their stadium, Manchester City. Pep Guardiola wasn't on the bench as his Manchester City citizens. Sky Blues were taking on Leicester City. So I'm going to go on a rant. This is a rant. This is a frustration. Before the Manchester City-Leicester game, we even get into it. Why are they both wearing blue? Why are Manchester City and Leicester City both wearing blue? Why did that need to happen? It really, for me, just kind of made the game more difficult to watch. Like, I don't suffer from any type of color blindness or vision issues, but two teams, a light blue and a dark blue, playing each other is not pleasant on the eyes. I mean, this also happens when Manchester City plays Chelsea. It happened in the Manchester City-Chelsea Champions League final, and it was awful. It was awful to watch. This game was awful to watch simply because of the color scheme. I mean, I'll cut Man City some slack here. They're home. They should be able to wear their sky blues. Leicester's third kit probably wouldn't work, but their away kit's black. Why are they not wearing that? Why do we, the viewing audience, have to watch two teams wearing different shades of blue competing against one another? I mean, I know this is a super kind of nitpicky complaint, and maybe it's not a problem for other people, but it really just turned me off from getting into this game. I mean, why is Leicester not wearing their black away kit? I know in the past, Premier League teams really wouldn't wear black because that was the color, like the color of a shirt that the referees wore. But this is 2025. Referees can wear yellow. They can wear green. They can wear whatever. Why did we have to be subjected to that? It put me in a bad mood. I'm saying it. It put me in a bad mood for the rest of the match. That's all. Ran over. That's all I got. But it was stupid. It was a stupid decision, and I didn't like it. I do suppose we need to talk about the game, though, real quick. Not even 2 minutes into the game, once I guess I calmed down, Savino found Jack Grealish, and he scored, opened the scoring. It was his first goal in forever. It's like 16 months. Well, first goal in the Premier League. For a $100 million man, that's insane. Man City taking early lead. Leicester fought back a little bit, but it was kind of over early because Leicester's goalie, Hermansen, he fumbled across. He was trying to catch Omar Marmoush, had a wide open goal for Manchester City, and the January signing scored his 5th Premier League goal so far since he's been brought over during the winter window. At this point, it was a 2-0 game. Man City had just about every other chance of the game from this point out. And it was boring. I mean, that was it. I really don't even have any other notes from the game. Manchester City 2, Leicester 0. Even though Manchester City's having a season to forget, their worst season in I don't even remember how long, they at their lowest are probably not going to struggle against a relegation headed team like Leicester City. Leicester, can't even say fought well. It was boring. It was one-sided. Some games are gonna be like that. Is what it is. I'm already ready to move on from this game. I'm done talking about it. It's gonna get like a minute of my time. These midweek games, and teams get tired, players get tired, because I do think there's a significant difference between the quality in these midweek games that I watched versus, because by the time I'm recording this, I've also got everything I needed for the weekend games. And I know it's the same distance of break, but the midweek games are really just low quality for some reason. I don't know what it is. Maybe they're tired. Maybe it's because it's night. I don't know. I don't care. I didn't really enjoy it. Although we're going to move into the game. Another game. These are all games. Newcastle United hosted Brentford. Newcastle had a really good chance early on. Alexander Isak, he got a cross from Livramento. It found his head, but it went just wide. Newcastle kind of kept peppering him. Joe Linton then had a shot. Cross hybrid that was kind of whipped across, but no one could really get a foot on it. And it was a really fun and open 20 minutes to start. It was definitely a Newcastle side, but Brentford are a team that can counter really well, and they were still proving to be dangerous themselves. Isak then had a wonderful run in the last minute of the first half. It should have been a one-on-one with the goalkeeper, but he chipped it to Harvey Barnes for some reason. Kind of really just didn't understand his logic there. And yeah, he was offsides, so it didn't count. And that was I thought that was it. I thought that was going to be the end of the first half. But then Jacob Murphy sent a cross in the injury time. And Buemo, who's not a defender, slipped right in front of Isak. And, he's a great forward. He's not going to miss an open opportunity that close to the goal. It gives Newcastle a 1-0 halftime lead. This game comes out slow. 63rd minute, cross is sent to Vissa for Brentford. And then Newcastle's goalie kind of really just makes a pretty stupid decision. Nick Pope, he took out Mbuemo. Just didn't even really get the ball. Took him out. Or took out Vissa. And then Mbuemo later scored. He scored the penalty. He's a great penalty taker. I think like the announcer said he was 10 for 10 or something like that. Brentford then kept pushing. They hit the post off a cross 4 minutes later. It looked like they may take a lead, but then Sandro Tonali for Newcastle, he hit a ball that was probably... Okay, Tonali was like cutting in, and God, I'm like struggling over my words how to describe this goal. Conventional standard, you'd assume like just standard of play, he was crossing. He was in a crossing position. But the ball was hit with such a ferocity and power that you usually wouldn't send a cross in on. So I don't know what his goal was here. Maybe in a moment of brilliance, he did see that little gap between the goalkeeper and the goal post, and he found it. Sandro Tonali put in what should have been a cross as a really powerful shot. It beats the goalkeeper in the 74th minute. I mean, really weird. Newcastle take a 2-1 lead. And then there really wasn't anything else for the rest of the game. Damsgaard, decent attacking midfielder for Brentford. He had a chance to tie it up in the 93rd minute. I thought he was going to finish it. Maybe he was tired. Just absolutely skied the opportunity. Newcastle had to do a little more brave defending, but that was it. Game finished. Newcastle 2, Brentford 1. Newcastle, who's a team, has really turned it around. I mean, obviously they're riding the high. I think this is their first Premier League game since that Carabao Cup victory over Liverpool. They've just kind of been riding that high. They've been doing really well. And now they're really putting themselves back in the fight for Champions League spots. Brentford's good, but they're not as good. And I think that's been evident this season. I mean, Brentford's a team that can just be so dangerous on the counter. However, they just lack that. I don't know if it's like discipline or what it is that will push them into European qualification spots, but they're missing it. I mean, they're not a team that you want to play when they're on their day, but they're not a team that's going to finish like sixth in the Premier League. No. Moving through these midweek games, kind of another, again, these midweek games really didn't do it for me. I hate to say that before I even start. We got Southampton versus Crystal Palace. Mateta hit the post with a powerful shot in the first few minutes to give a decent chance for Crystal Palace. And obviously with that nasty, nasty injury he suffered during FA Cup match against Millwall, took a boot to the face, really messed him up. You want to see Jean-Philippe Mateta doing well. And he hit the post with a powerful shot. And then at the 20th minute, kind of surprising, Onuachu for Southampton. He gets a cross that was sent in, he heads it, and for the first time in a very, very long time, Southampton are winning a Premier League game. At least it feels like it's been a long time. You know, they're not very good. Aaron Ramsdale then makes a fine save on a Mateta shot, and that was really it for the first half. There's nothing exciting, but Southampton was really playing well, much better than they've been playing at different points this season. There was a second half that didn't really prove to be much more exciting either. And then heartbreakingly, for Southampton, Crystal Palace, who have been playing poorly all game, finally get a chance. Mateus França scores his first ever goal for Crystal Palace, ties the game up. It was a cross in, it barely squeaked by Aaron Ramsdale, and Southampton was not able to get the victory. Southampton tied Crystal Palace 1-1. Southampton getting their fourth draw of the year. They only have 2 wins. It's 10 points on total. They're 2 away, and you get 2 points this year, or else they're going to be the worst team in Premier League history. I don't wish that for anyone. Palace are going to be incredibly disappointed. I mean, it's a team that's 10 wins, 10 draws, 9 losses. A couple of those draws go a different way. You know, this is a team that's pushing serious European qualification. Then we're going to move on to a Merseyside derby. Liverpool versus Everton, maybe the friendliest derby in football. I hate that we're getting a midweek derby. They've been really putting like Tottenham, Arsenal on midweek games the last couple of years. I mean, maybe because it's prime time television. I don't know if that works the same, if that's like as big of a priority over there in the United Kingdom, specifically Everton. Not Everton, England, excuse me. But yeah, we got a Merseyside derby in the middle of the week. It was slow to start. It was an early yellow for James Tarkowski. That was kind of nasty. That was the only excitement from the first 15 minutes. Everton actually looked like they got a goal in the 19th minute, Beto, but he was offsides in the build-up. He then got past Van Dijk in a breakaway, but he hit the post. And Liverpool never really pushed through in the first half. It went into halftime 0-0, and kind of deservingly so. The Reds, though, did get motivated, apparently. You know, they upped their tempo to start the second half. Diego Jota found the back of the net to start the scoring in the 57th minute. In an unexciting game, Liverpool pulled away from Everton 1-0. I mean, that's really all I got about this game. It was boring. These midweek games were boring. Believe me, I'll go more in depth on the weekend games. The weekend games were better, and there was actually some other exciting games and other leagues to talk about, or that are worth talking about. But yeah, I mean, Liverpool, they controlled possession. Everton really couldn't break through, and you know, they're kind of just one step closer to the title. That's really all I got about that one. If you wanted excitement, though, Chelsea hosting Tottenham. That's excitement. Well, at least the first part of this game was. The first sequence was like this really exciting back and forth play between the two teams. It was absolutely exhilarating. And then like Malagusto had another decent chance in the 6th minute. But no, I seriously I think like the Premier League, maybe on Twitter or YouTube, posted like the first 2 minutes. I mean, it was back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And, you know, the first half was all right after that. But I mean, that was the first couple minutes. They really got me excited. Palmer sent a nice ball in, but Udogie for Tottenham was all over it. Before halftime, Vicario actually had to make a fantastic fingertip save on a pretty decent chance for Jadon Sancho. He wasn't able to put it away, starting at the left wing. And there was a little drama before halftime. There's some pushing, some shoving, nothing crazy. I mean, that's
Again, that's all I really got to report in the first half. But fortunately, the second half actually came out better. 50th minute, a wonderfully weighted Cole Palmer cross found the head of Enzo Fernandez, who's 5'10". I didn't think he was that tall. You can't give a wonderful player like Palmer that much open time to send a cross in because it's going to be perfect, and it was. And then Caicedo, less than 5 minutes later, hit a fantastic shot out of the air. It's wonderful. It was a beautiful shot. One of the best shots on the box into the corner side of the net, and it was beautiful, but then it wasn't. All right, I got to go on. I think this is my last rant of the day. You can call me a coward because this is kind of a cowardly take, but I don't understand where I sit on the VAR thing. I do understand that it's you either got to be 100% in or 100% out. But when I watch a goal like Caicedo's scored, and then VAR essentially rules it out, part of me just feels like it kills the spirit of the game. And I know I'm not to sound like a hypocrite because I also find it frustrating when the refs get it wrong and it's costly. This didn't affect me, but my brain just instantly goes like Arjen Robben diving Netherlands versus Mexico in the World Cup, which shouldn't have been a penalty, but it was, and it cost Mexico their World Cup journey. I don't know what to think. Because I watched the Caicedo goal, and it was so wonderful, and I was just so upset that it got called off, because it deserves to be kept in the world. The goal is going to be forgotten. Goals that are called back are forgotten. And then, Mate Sarr hit a decent strike in the 69th minute from outside the box. Another beautiful strike. And VAR called it off, which I think was correct, and both calls were correct. And so I do appreciate VAR for getting correct calls. But again, there's two goals that are just never going to be seen again. They were fantastic goals. They made me feel great as a neutral watching. So what's worse? These great goals being called back or the issues with the referee? I don't know. It kind of left me frustrated. It left me frustrated because I didn't know what to think. It's not even about VAR being broken. It's kind of just VAR kill the human side, the spirit of soccer. That's my rant. Tottenham was upset by the VAR call in the Sarr situation, but I think that was the right call. But the right call found myself feeling less entertained. I was hating VAR for all the wrong reasons. Now I don't know what to think. I still don't know what to think. I don't even know if I've made any point in this rant. But VAR in the Chelsea-Tottenham game pissed me off. But then, the teams exchanged chances in the second half. Son was fed a cross from Brennan Johnson that was it was on a fast break, and I think everything was just too fast for him. I was a little too far ahead, and it was actually a routine save for Robert Sanchez. And that was really that. There was 12 minutes of added time. Tottenham really couldn't do anything with it. Final score, Chelsea 1, Tottenham 0. Good win for Chelsea. Good win for a Chelsea team that's making a push towards Champions League spots. I think they'll win the Conference League. It'd actually be embarrassing if they didn't win the Conference League. But yeah, good win for Chelsea. Yeah, definitely be proud of themselves. But they're really not the team that I'm gonna kind of go into. I just they could make a Europa League run, and maybe win a good string of games to end the season, and I could potentially eat my words without even really getting into a technical breakdown of what's gone right and gone wrong. More just an overall state of the team. I'm really starting to be out on Ange Postecoglou at Tottenham Hotspur. He was really a breath of fresh air when he came into the Premier League, and I don't know, now it's like all the spark and life. Like, you watch him in an interview, he just looks kind of sad. And Tottenham look kind of sad. This is a decently strong lineup that Tottenham was able to put out today, and I think they just looked on like a second level below Chelsea. I can talk to my Tottenham guys, but I don't think they're too happy with him either. And I did reach out to my Tottenham source, my Tottenham guy, who does watch them religiously week in, week out, and he thinks, once if, but he's not too optimistic, Tottenham lose in the Europa League, then he's going to be Ange out. He does think that Tottenham will just replace him with someone average, and they'll just call for the next manager's head. If he does win the Europa League, he'd make the argument that Ange should stay, but he believes that Ange has lost the team. He lost the locker room. He doesn't adjust his tactics week to week. And even if Ange lost, there's still kind of like a fundamental issue at the core of the club, and it's Daniel Levy. And I do kind of agree with that with an outside perspective, someone who isn't a Tottenham fan myself. I think these issues are present, and they're good takes. I think my Tottenham source delivered. Shout out to my Tottenham source out in the great state of Colorado. He knows who he is. Yeah, no, I think Tottenham's got issues. A Europa League title may just mask those, or it could be the springboard, the foundation to a better team. But yeah, right now I've kind of taken a 180, and it's been a slow turn. And I didn't completely turn around right away, but I'm out on Ange. I think Ange Postecoglou's days in Tottenham Hotspur's management role are numbered, and I think rightfully so. And that was actually the last Premier League game that we had to talk about during the midweek. I'm going to get into the cups. There was the semifinals of the Spanish Cup, the semifinals of the German Cup, and the semifinals of the Italian Cup, and they were all they're all different. The Spanish Cup was in the second leg of their two-leg semifinals. The German Cup was a single-leg semifinal, and the Italian Cup was in the first leg of their semifinal. And I know that this is very much like a Premier League heavy podcast. I mean, listen, most Americans, an overwhelming majority who follow European soccer, they're a Premier League team fan first. I'd say of the 20-ish or so serious soccer fans in my life, I have one Dortmund fan and one Real Madrid fan sitting out in a sea of Premier League faces. So the Premier League gets most of my attention. But when there's a game that's so good that I need to talk about it the way I talk about a Premier League game, I will. And that was Real Madrid, Real Sociedad in the second leg of the Spanish Cup. And I'll give you some context behind this, because this is going to be the best game I talked about all week. It's too good not to talk about in great detail. So it was the second leg of the Spanish Cup, also known as the Copa del Rey, if we want to be, good soccer fans. So I'm going to call it the Copa del Rey from this point forward, the name of the tournament. Real Madrid came into the game with a 1-0 lead on aggregate. So the combined total of the two games from their previous fixture that was played at Real Sociedad's home in the Basque Country region of Spain. But now they're in the capital region. And the game actually, it took a little bit to pick up. It almost started fantastically. Endrick, the young Brazilian wonder kid for Real Madrid, almost scored an amazing, ambitious bicycle kick. It beat the keeper, but it missed the goal. Jogo Bonita. Brazilian style of flair. I was really hoping it would go in. It should have been a great goal. Great for the fans. And then Real Madrid, the Reals may throw me off because both teams start with Real. Sociedad, we're just going to do that going forward. They got it started early, playing a 4-1-4-1. Their right winger, their left winger, Ander Baranexia. You gotta bear with me here. I know a couple players on Sociedad's team, but I may butcher some of these names. Sorry. The Sociedad left winger, Baranexia. He had so much space. The Real Madrid right back time, I think it was Vasquez. Vasquez was playing right back for Real Madrid. He had the space, just not covered. Ball gets put to him, and he gets a one-on-one with the Real Madrid goalkeeper. And because it wasn't Courtois and it wasn't Lunin, and he put it away. 1-0 lead for Real Sociedad on the night, 1-1 on aggregate, 16th minute. And then Real Madrid do Real Madrid things. Never really let Sociedad get too comfortable in this match. 30th minute, Vinny Jr., he supplied Endrick a Brazilian-to-Brazilian connection, a fantastic Travella pass with the outside of the boot that Endrick just wonderfully chipped over the Real Sociedad goalkeeper, Alex Romero, to tie the game up. 1-1 on the night, but Real Madrid did take the lead, 2-1 on aggregate. And the first half ended. There were a couple decent plays for Real Madrid closing out the first half, but nothing crazy. It doesn't get crazy yet. The second half starts, Jude Bellingham got smacked in the face by the Real Sociedad goalkeeper while they were both going up for the ball, but it wasn't called a penalty, and it can't be reviewed because Bellingham would have technically been offsides. So I guess you can just smack the guy in the face, but if he's offsides, it's good. It's crazy. Real crazy. And then Pablo Marin, who's kind of playing a inside attacking midfielder role for Real Sociedad, the left-sided attacking midfielder. He got past Camavinga, and then his cross in the 72nd minute was deflected by David Alaba, and it caused a goal. And it was tied up on aggregate 2-2, and that's how we're just going to refer to it going forward. And then just 7 minutes later, you got another freak goal. The wonderful Mikel Oyarzabal for Real Sociedad had a shot that was also again deflected by David Alaba. And hey, you shoot to shoot. You take the deflections. You take what you can get. And yeah, Real Sociedad's now up 3-2 on aggregate. Looks like with 10 minutes left, they may be advancing to the Copa del Rey the Copa del Rey final. But it's Real Madrid, and they're inevitable. And it wasn't 10 minutes to wait. It was less than 2. When Vinicius Jr. made a fantastic move down the wing, got past his defender, hit Jude Bellingham with a cross. He volleyed it correctly. The tie's level again. 3-3 on aggregate. And not even 3 minutes later, Vinny Jr. has another really good chance. I thought it was going to make it 4-3 overall to Real Madrid, but he didn't. He got past the goalkeeper in like a one-on-one situation, but he couldn't get the ball from under his feet. And that move led to a corner. And that corner was put away by Tchouaméni. It should have been saved. I think the Ramiro, the Sociedad goalkeeper, actually did a really poor job of keeping it out. It kind of bounced like right in front of him. Really awkward shot. Like the ideal lacrosse bounce shot, but that's irrelevant right now. Should have been saved. The game looked over. Real Madrid was up 4-3 on aggregate. And then in the 92nd minute, when Real Sociedad was putting, pressure, Oyarzabal got his second goal. Free kick in the 92nd minute. Got his head on it. And just like that, it's 4-4. It's going to extra time. It was a wide open game. I mean, it really was wide open you had 5 goals in regulation from the 72nd minute to the final whistle of regular time. But there was one advantage that Real Madrid had. And it was Kylian Mbappe not have had playing the whole game. Mbappe didn't start. He didn't come on until the 66th minute. So when you're a defender for like Sociedad, who's been running for 105 minutes, and you have to compete with a Kylian Mbappe, who's been running for 39 minutes, you're in for a bad time. And that was that. Because Real Madrid is Real Madrid. Is Real Madrid is Real Madrid. They're the Yankees times 10. They're Alabama times 15. They're the evil empire. They're inevitable. They're Thanos in Infinity War with 6 Infinity Stones. And that Infinity Stone was the head of the German Antonio Rudiger. He scores 115th minute off a corner. Real Madrid win this game. Exciting, wonderful. But we're going to talk about them in a second, because we're going to talk about the second. I just said second back to back like that. I really need to expand my vocabularistics. So the other semifinal tie was Atletico Madrid hosting Barcelona, and the first leg of that one finished 4-4. So we're wondering, like, okay, we're going to get another exciting matchup? No, not really. Ferran Torres scored in the 27th minute for Barcelona. He was set up pretty nicely by Lamine Yamal. Just wonderfully weighted pass, just a nice little touch that Torres needed. And then, Atletico really couldn't push through from that point forward in the tie. And Barcelona won 1-0, 5-4 in aggregate. I mean, Atletico Madrid didn't even have a shot on target, and they were at home. It was just kind of surprising, because I mean, they looked decent when they played Real Madrid, but they've been struggling lately. I think they're really falling out of the league conversation in Spain. But it's not really this game that's really got me talking. And I yapped a lot, but it's not even really the 4-4 Real Madrid Sociedad tie. It's got me talking. It's what we're getting in the future. On April 26, 2025, at the Estadio de la Cultura in Seville in front of 57,600 people. Barcelona and Real Madrid will be facing off in the Copa del Rey final. We are going to have an El Clasico Copa del Rey final. If that does not get you excited, I am sorry that you are living such a sad, pathetic life. This is the first time in 11 years that we will have a Copa del Rey El Clasico final. Real Madrid, on that day, defeated Barcelona 2-1, mostly known for Gareth Bale's fantastic solo goal in the 85th minute in his first season with Real Madrid, blowing past the Barcelona defender like he was nothing, and finally slotting it into the bottom corner. It's actually kind of crazy how far we've come. So, it's crazy to think that goal was 11 years ago. And it's surprising with Real Madrid and Barcelona's dominance of Spanish football in general that it's going to be 11 years since this has happened. But I'm so excited. I mean, I think, these teams are both pretty strong attacking. I mean, it's Barcelona and Real Madrid. What more do I need to say? I mean, I can do a better breakdown of the game prior to it happening when we realize who may be playing and whatnot. But if this doesn't get you excited, I don't know what will. I, for one, am quite excited. It's definitely going to be one that I'm marking on my calendar. It's going to be a Saturday. I don't care what else is playing. I don't care what's going on in England or any sports in America. That's just going to be a fantastic game to watch. April 25th or 26th. Gosh, I'm already forgetting. April 26th, Barcelona, Real Madrid. Lock it down. Pay attention. It's going to be awesome. Now we're going to get into the German Cup, the DFB Pokal semifinals. We're going to talk about the first game. Well, no, it wasn't the first game. This is the first game we're going to talk about. It was the second game on the week. It was Stuttgart hosting RB Leipzig. I thought Leipzig could potentially get this game. No, I mean, Stuttgart was favored. Stuttgart's a good team. They've been playing well in the German league. They qualified for the Champions League. They were in the Champions League this year, even if they were ultimately disappointed. Both teams, actually, Stuttgart and Leipzig, were very disappointing in the Champions League. But overall, Stuttgart's been a stronger team on the season, and they were a stronger team on the day. They started out right away. Angelo Stiller scoring 5 minutes into the game. Goes into halftime 1-0. Nick Voltemade makes it 2-0 in the 57th minute. Benjamin Sesko, the great forward for Leipzig, who will probably be leaving in the summer if Leipzig really don't show some promise of turning things around. He made it interesting in the 62nd minute, but then Jamie Leweling got his foot on a deflected header from a corner, and Stuttgart is going back to the German Cup for the first time in 12 years. It's a competition they've actually won 3 times, 1954, 1958, and most recently 1997. They didn't win that game in 2013, last time they were in it. They also lost cup finals in 2007 and 1986. So for a team that hasn't had a first-level trophy in about 18 years since they last won the Bundesliga, this could be great for them. I mean, this could be huge. They're also a team that's sitting 9th right now in the Bundesliga, so this could be an entryway into the Europa League. And the Europa League is a competition that I think Stuttgart has the potential to really do some damage in. And just the pride of playing a cup final for your club and in front of your fans. So this is where things get surprising. The other semifinal was Arminia Bielefeld playing Bayer Leverkusen. Now, Bayer Leverkusen is a really good team. They won the Bundesliga with no losses last year. They also won the German Cup. They actually only lost 1 game last year, and that was the Europa League final to Atalanta. Now, they've regressed a little bit this year, but they're second in the Bundesliga. They got knocked out in the round of 16 in the Champions League. Still a pretty successful season for a team like Bayer Leverkusen. So when they're playing Arminia Bielefeld, and meine Deutsche nicht sehr gut, so apologize if I am mispronouncing this 3rd division team. So let me give you some perspective. Or you know what? Let's regroup our thoughts here. Arminia Bielefeld, if I'm even pronouncing that correctly, Bielefeld seems to be the more. Arminia Bielefeld. They haven't been in the Bundesliga since 2009. So if you do not remember them, that's okay. They're currently down in the third division, where last year they finished 14th. Though currently they're doing better, and they're sitting third, which would qualify them for the promotion playoffs to the second division in Germany, the Bundesliga 2. They are not a big team in German football. They've never won the cup. They've never won the league. They've won the second division a couple times, but that's all. They're a smaller team. Bayer Leverkusen are a bigger team, and this is a cup semifinal. So the story should be good for Bielefeld, good for you for being here, but Leverkusen's going to advance, right? I mean, Leverkusen was the goal and a half favorite, minus 500 to advance and minus 340 to go through. So Leverkusen should win this game, right? I mean, right? They're starting everyone you'd expect them to. Grimaldo, Frimpong, Xhaka, Schick, Jonathan Tah. And this is a good Leverkusen lineup. Every so often, we're reminded that sports are amazing. And in the 17th minute, it wasn't actually one of those times when Jonathan Tah creates a lead for Bayer Leverkusen. But goals from Marius Vorl and Maximilian Grober in the first half created a 2-1 lead for Bielefeld. And they held that lead to the end of the game. In this era of gigantic money, which doesn't plague Germany like it does the rest of Europe as badly, we get to see what soccer is all about. A team from the third division is now playing for the DFB Pokal, the German Cup. A chance to be in the Europa League next year. It's wonderful. It's amazing. I try to stay as unbiased as possible in this podcast, but I can't help but rooting for them when that game comes. I mean, this is the biggest game in the club's history. They've never been to the Cup final. And it's going to be a daunting task. Stuttgart are a good team. They're one of the 10 best teams in Germany right now. They're sitting 9th. Qualified for the Champions League last year. But maybe, just maybe, we can all be reminded of why we fell in love with this game. And I'm, for one, going to be super excited in this German Cup final, watching this wonderful run of this team, who've just beaten Bayer Leverkusen, as well as knocking out Werder Bremen, Freiburg, and Union Berlin, who are all first division German teams. And they knocked out Hanover, who, big team, not in the first division, but big team. I mean, this has just been one of the best stories in soccer this season. I don't feel like it's getting the love it deserves, and that's why I'm telling it to you. Arminia Bielefeld, making a potential run towards history. The game will be on May 24th. And yeah, I know I brought some gambling odds. I usually don't bring up gambling in this podcast. Not that I have anything against it. It's currently legal where I reside in the United States. However, it's just not really what I want my podcast to be about. But sometimes betting odds are the best reflection of who's supposed to win or what people who are smarter than me are projecting to win, because the people who set lines they're smart. Vegas doesn't lose. So, Vegas says Leverkusen's supposed to win by a lot. Then Leverkusen were supposed to win by a lot. And yeah, that was it for the German Cup. We're set for the Spanish Cup final. We're set for the German Cup final, the Copa del Rey, the DFB Pokal. And then we're out to the Coppa Italia, which if you couldn't figure that one out, that's the Italian Cup. We had 2 ties. This is the first leg of them. And kind of different vibes on each side of the bracket. You've got one with kind of stronger teams, one with, lower level Italian teams. And, I feel bad because the first match was Empoli versus Bologna. And Bologna's a good team. They qualified for the Champions League this year. They didn't make it in the top 24, but they qualified. They lost some good players over the summer. They lost Riccardo Calafiori to Arsenal. And right now they're setting themselves up to qualify for the Italian Cup. Because they got the best of Empoli. They won 3-0. Goals from Riccardo Orsolini and Tis Delinga. Yeah. 23rd, 29th, and 51st minute. I mean, I'm rolling through these pretty quickly. I mean, this was just kind of belt the ass. I mean, this is a completely one-sided game, and they got the net return leg at home. They're setting themselves up well. But the other side of the bracket, where it was teams that are, quote unquote bigger, AC Milan hosting Inter Milan, a Milan derby for Coppa Italia semifinals. Coming out of the second half, Tammy Abraham opened up the scoring for AC Milan in the 47th minute, and the wonderful Hakan Çalhanoğlu made it 1-1 in the 67th minute. We're not changing stadiums, but we will be at the Inter side of the stadium next leg. It's 1-1 going into the final. I think it has away goals. I don't know. Away goals for the most part have been phased out of Europe predominantly. I don't know if the Coppa Italia still uses away goals. Yeah, they don't use away goals either. I looked that one up. So that kind of wraps up our midweek. We're gonna switch into the weekend. I know that was an hour. It was a really big week, and we'll probably have another hour of stuff to talk about going forward here. Well, let's get started. Get started for the week. Let's get to the weekend games. 1 hour into this episode. Good Lord. No, I do apologize. We're using a new podcasting software, and I think there's gonna be a little it's not as easy to cut down. It's better for me as a whole, but they cutting it down, trimming out little gaps, has become harder. So there might be larger pauses at times as I'm doing the show here than in podcasts of the last couple months. So that could be why we're at the 1 hour mark. I mean, I think my note taking for all these games is pretty good, so I have a lot to talk about. But yeah, let's bounce right into the weekend games. Let's get started. Going back to the Premier League, we're talking an Arsenal game again, but this time it's Arsenal traveling to Everton, and Arsenal is coming in as one with a semi-rotated squad. I think in anticipation of their upcoming Champions League fixture with Real Madrid, and they were pushing early, not too good. And then the 34th minute, actually, though, long ball kind of clearance from Arsenal. Gets a good bounce for Raheem Sterling. Strong run. Passes it to Leandro Trossard, and then emphatically kind of puts it in the back of the net. 34th minute. There were small chances here to there to end the first half. And yeah, that's where we were. Arsenal were up 1-0. But then to start the second half, controversy ensued. Miles Lewis-Skelly, the young 18-year-old left back for Arsenal, he got a penalty. Him and Jack Harrison were kind of pushing all over each other, and I didn't see it. I didn't see it being a penalty. The announcers didn't think it'd be a penalty. I don't think anyone on the field expected it to be a penalty. VAR looked at it, and they still got called a penalty. I mean, I even saw Mark Goldbridge, the Manchester United guy, who I don't think likes Arsenal in the slightest, was on Twitter being like, yeah, Arsenal kind of got screwed on that one. And it's not the first time it's happened this season. And I think the worst kind of fan is the fan who claims, kind of cries wolf regarding the referees. But if a Manchester United-based Twitter account is looking at the decisions being made against Arsenal and thinking something's wrong when there's always going to be some bias on their side, makes you wonder. But it got called a penalty, and at the end of the day, that's all that matters. And Jai slotted away for Everton and back in the net to tie it up. And then, really wasn't too many great chances at that point. Declan Rice had a decent free kick in the 67th minute. Martinelli got his right foot on a shot in the 84th minute where he cut in. But it was a good save for Pickford. Again, Arsenal had their chances, but it wasn't enough. And, I think with certain results that we're going to mention later in the episode, they're going to come to regret that. And since we're at the weekend and we're caught up, I will mention, with the final score 1-1, Arsenal is currently sitting second in the Premier League standings, and Everton is they are sitting 15th. So yeah, Arsenal second. They're 11 points behind Liverpool with 7 games to go. Everton are 15 points ahead of the relegation zone, and they are 18 points away from Champions League spots with 7 games to go. I think both are kind of out of the equation for Everton. That was probably the most rotated Arsenal side I've seen under Mikel Arteta in a Premier League game this season. And I don't blame him or them for, I don't want to say giving up, because I think giving up is harsh. But the focus for the season should be on the Champions League. Arsenal have a better shot of winning the Champions League than they do the Premier League. Real Madrid aside, that's just the fact of the matter right now. If you can look at a sports book, you can ask a guy on the street of London. But Liverpool's probably not going to be caught, even if they keep on this slump that they're on. So I can't blame Mikel Arteta. I can't blame him for rotating the side. You know, if that means you drop points against Everton, so be it. You're most likely still going to qualify for Champions League. I think it's the right call. Rest your guys. Rest Odegaard. Rest Martinelli. Rest Saka. Get them fresh for Real Madrid. That's where the season lies. That's where, if we look back at this 2024-2025 Arsenal season with any positivity in the future, it's going to come from the Champions League. It's not going to come from this inevitable second place finish. So yeah, I think that was the right move by Mikel Arteta. Rotate the side, take what you can get. You still got a point, but all the focus should 100% be on Real Madrid this week and next week. Even in the weekend game, I'd rotate again. Screw it. It's Real Madrid. Real Madrid is your number one focus. Decent points for Everton. Yeah, like I said, they're 15 points from a relegation spot. They've made some gains under David Moyes, and I think they're going to be much improved next year. So we'll just probably have to wait to them, see what kind of business they can get done in the summer window. I mean, 7 games left. They were kind of hitting that end of the season, all right.
All right, but we're going to go to London. We're going to go Crystal Palace, Brighton. Two teams. It's a bit of a rivalry. I mean, I don't think they love each other, but they sure didn't love each other in this game. But we're going to get into that. We're going to start with what happened. And Jean-Philippe Mateta, one of my personal favorite players in the Premier League. Boom, boom, boom. Mateta's in the room. He scores 3 minutes in the game with a wonderful run and a powerful finish, a real striker's goal. And he's quite good. I mean, this is his 13th goal in the Premier League this season for Crystal Palace. And I mentioned it earlier, you know, considering he got that nasty injury against Millwall, it's good to see him back and doing well. And Eze almost had another one for Palace in the 9th minute. He got the punt from Dean Henderson, the goalie, directly. Route 1 football. And it almost worked, but it didn't. And then Dean Henderson had to be called into action a couple minutes later. Had a nice little double save. And the game slowed down a little bit. And in the 30th minute, Danny Welbeck gets the simple of touches on a cross and ties the game up 1-1. Another just real striker's finish, something you'd expect out of someone to score. The great Danny Welbeck, who's managed to have a good career in the Premier League for a very long time now. And I made a note on my book. Brighton was wearing their yellow away kits, and it was a nice and sunny day in South London. And with the angle of the sun and the reflection off the grass, at times in the first half and into the second half, it was kind of hard to see Brighton's yellow jersey. I mean, you're not going to get the same complaints out of me that, you know, I was talking about with the Leicester City, Man City blue game. But it's still hard to see. But let's get back to the soccer. 55th minute, Daniel Munoz, coming out of halftime for Crystal Palace, scores from the far corner of the box. He got a generous deflection, but you shoot to score. You take deflections. If they go in, you take it. And then the game kind of went crazy. The Eddie Nketiah dove in the box, got a yellow card. 78th minute, gets his second yellow card, doesn't even see the guy, goes for a high ball with his boot, and, you know, you can take the player out of Arsenal, but he's still going to be sent off by the referees. And I feel bad, because there was contact on the dive, and neither yellow cards were really that bad, but in the definitions of the laws of the game, they're yellow cards. So he's sent off. And the game starts to get real chippy, which is a neutral. That's awesome. I love a chippy game, you know? Think like Argentina, Netherlands in the World Cup, you know? I want teams who maybe shouldn't hate each other, like, start hating each other. And Palace had to defend. They had to defend their lead. They were on the back foot, but they defended with grit. And that grit was really going to be tested because Mark Gay gets his second yellow. Crystal Palace is now down to 9 men. That was a stupid challenge. He really let his team down. They're down to 9 men, but they're still defending with heart. But then it keeps going. This time, the foul was the other way around. Van Hecker for Brighton gets his second yellow. You know, he kind of had to stop would have been a one-on-one with the goalkeeper. And now it's, for the rest of the game, It's 9 men for, I mean, this was 6 minutes at a time, but it was 9 men for Palace and 10 men for Brighton. Dean Henderson had to make one last great save at the end of the game for Crystal Palace, and somehow they survived that one. I mean, probably from a entertainment perspective as a neutral towards the end of that game, it was probably the second best game mentioned on this podcast, behind the Real Madrid-Real Sociedad game. I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed this one. It was good. It was a good time. Very happy. But we'll keep moving. We'll keep moving in the Premier League. Ipswich Town versus Wolves. Ipswich Town needed to defeat Wolves if there was any chance that they could really stay up. I mean, it wasn't a game where they're going to be relegated if they lose, but if there's going to be Ipswich Town in the Premier League next year, this needs to be a win. And it almost worked out. I mean, Wolves were pressing on Ipswich pretty early, but they scored 15 minutes in. Liam Delap gets his 12th of the season. It was a nice cross, a nice header. Delap was exactly where he needs to be as a striker. And Ipswich Town are up 1-0 at home. And then the game kind of slowed down. But there was a really cool moment in the 35th minute. Ipswich's goalkeeper, who the announcers were actually saying like how good of a season he's been having, he missed the back pass from his defender. And he had to handle it. He had to put his hand on the ball. Now, the back pass is a different type of. Okay, let me give you some soccer context. Back in the day, in the 70s, 80s, and early 90s, defenders could pass the ball back to the goalkeeper and they could just pick it up, which was terrible. And it took them like 100 years to realize it was terrible. But when they fixed the rule, they didn't make it a direct kick. They made it an indirect kick. So if a defender passes it back to the goalie misses it and has to punch it off the line, it isn't a penalty. It's an indirect kick, which can't be taken in the 6-yard box, which is why we have the 6-yard box one for goal kicks. So we got to see something super rare. The inside the 18-yard box indirect free kick, 7 yards out. There was like 11 Ipswich dudes in the goal. They're very rarely scored. You very rarely see them. You got to give props to the Ipswich captain. He dove in, ready to sacrifice his body and block that shot, which he did. Wolves kept pushing, though. Joao Gomez hit the post to start the second chance. It was small chance after small chance. It really just felt like it was going to be a matter of when are they going to break through. And it came in the 73rd minute. Pablo Sarabia did find that breakthrough. Jorgen Strand Larsen made it lead for Wolves after getting the end of a Sarabia cross in the 84th minute as Wolves made it 2-1. Ipswich Town really weren't able to fight back in this game whatsoever. And with that, it finishes Wolves 2, Ipswich Town 1. With that result, Wolves stay in 17th, Ipswich Town stays in 18th. And with 7 games to go, there's now a 12-point difference between Wolves and Ipswich. It would be one of the best relegation saves in Premier League history by Ipswich if they were to stay up, and I just don't think it's going to happen. I'm a little down on them. I don't think they're going to do it. It's just a matter of when and not if. And good for Wolves. They again, I said it earlier in the episode, they lost their first 10 games to start the season, and they really just have been making steps to being a better team. They really believe. I mean, they're really playing with a cohesion. And then we're going to go back to London. West Ham versus Bournemouth. It was an early chance for Bournemouth in the first minute, Evan Nielsen kind of catching everyone sleeping. Didn't score, though. And, I didn't really have any notes until the 38th minute. Semenyo shot for Bournemouth is saved by the experienced West Ham goalkeeper, Alphonse Areola, and he pushes it right to the feet of Evan Nielsen. He should have done better. Evan Nielsen's going to score that. Bournemouth hit the post a few minutes later, and that was really it for the first half. It was a slow second half, too, until the German striker, Nicholas Füllkrug. He gets on a James Ward-Prowse corner, ties the game up for West Ham at home, and then the game really shifted towards West Ham. Jared Bowen gets on a Mohamed Kudus cross, and just like that, it's 2-1 West Ham. Jared Bowen has a nice free kick. It was almost 3-1 West Ham. But this is West Ham we're talking about, and this is West Ham's season in a nutshell. They're having all this momentum, having all these chances, and on a free kick, Evan Nielsen sneaks in the back post in the 79th minute, ties the game up 2-2, and now the game's back in Bournemouth's favor. Areola had to make a nice save on a Semenyo shot in the 82nd minute. I mean, the game really opened up from the 70th minute on. Frankly, you could say the 60th minute on, because all 3 of the 4 goals came from the 60th minute onward, but with West Ham dominating in the 60s, and then Bournemouth kind of fighting back in the 70s minutes, that is. It was really back and forth. It was a really entertaining game. Final score was West Ham 2, Bournemouth 2. With this result, West Ham is in 16th place, 15 points above the relegation zone, really far away from Europe, something like 18 points. Bournemouth are currently sitting in 10th with 45 points. If 5th place goes to the Champions League, they are sitting 8 points out of a Champions League spot, and they're 25 points. I don't think they cannot mathematically be eliminated. So, again, if 5 teams go to the Champions League, they are, which we can assume that from this point on, 8 points out of a Champions League spot, 7 Europa League, and 6 Conference League. So all still to play for in Bournemouth season. Nothing much really to play for in West Ham season because they are 16 points away from a European spot. And I don't believe they're still in the FA Cup. So that's going to be it for them. But we're going to transition to 2 teams who are in European spots. 2 teams who've played some wonderful football this year. Aston Villa hosting Nottingham Forest. And Villa started better. Yuri Tielemans, he found Morgan Rogers early in the 13th minute and put it away. And then less than 2 minutes later, Yates. No, not Yates. That's a clerical error on my part. My notes, I had it Yates applying the assist, but Yates plays for Nottingham Forest, and it was Aston Villa who scored. Maybe make sure not to call him Aston Martin. Well, Danielle Mallon scored. That I know for sure. Villa go up 2-0 in the first 15 minutes of the game. And then Forest kind of fought back from that, like right away. Anthony Elanga almost scored a goal similar to his one versus Man United I mentioned earlier in the podcast, probably like 40 minutes ago. And then Callum Hudson-Odoi, the former Chelsea man, had a decent chance too for Nottingham Forest. So they fought back. They were willing to fight. They weren't going to give up despite being 2-0 down. They came into the second half with the better chances. And then eventually, Nico Williams finds Jota Silva, who puts his left-footed shot in the bottom left corner. I feel like Martinez could have done better, but he didn't. Makes it 2-1. Elliot Anderson almost tied it up. Morgan Rogers then almost makes it 3-1. I mean, this really turned into a fun game to watch. Nico Williams then, in the 80th minute, had a chance. Barely missed the goal. Murillo almost scored the best goal of his career, which is a really long shot that went off the post. I mean, he was 25 yards out in the 91st minute, and Martinez had no chance. If that would have been goal bound, Martinez would have had no chance. The announcers in the stadium thought that was going to go in, but Villa held strong, as they have multiple times this season, and they win the game 2-1. With this result, Nottingham Forest is still sitting in 3rd place despite their loss. 16 points behind Liverpool, so that's really out of the picture. But they're only 5 behind Arsenal. They currently sit 5 points ahead of 6th place Manchester City, who are going to be fighting for Champions League spots. They're 6 points ahead of Aston Villa, who are currently in 7th. 7th right now would be one of the Europa League spots, though that is very contingent on who wins the FA Cup, which it could be a team who's below them. If the FA Cup team is below them, then right now Aston Villa would be going to the Conference League because Newcastle's ahead of them, and Newcastle won the Conference League or won the League Cup, so they go to the Conference League. But then again, Aston Villa could still win the Champions League. They got PSG on Tuesday. So, I mean, this is a good win to go into, PSG. And they had a pretty rotated side. Guys like Pau Torres and Matty Cash, who will probably be starting against PSG, were rested the entire game today. So, I mean, the fact that they can still pick up 3 points there is great. And, yeah, I mean, these are 2 teams that could very well be in the Champions League next year. More than likely, Nottingham Forest and Aston Villa. But I think Aston Villa is kind of in the same category as Arsenal. Their focus is going to be on the Champions League and their upcoming matchup against the team from Paris, who, they beat Liverpool, and they looked much better than Liverpool. Not as much in the second game, but still looked better, regardless. And we're rolling through these weekend games faster, which is kind of surprising, because I thoroughly did enjoy the weekend games more, but I have less notes, and I don't know why. Maybe it was less rants, less things to talk about. I'm not sure. But yeah, no, I mean, it's these weekend games were better. I mean, we are going to go to a boring one though. So I did kind of jinx myself in that regard. That was Brentford Chelsea. The first 30 minutes of this game was boring. I mean, Brentford had a few chances, but I don't even have any notes. The only note I had was that Brentford was playing better. I mean, there was one Brentford corner where there was a good save made by Sanchez, the Chelsea goalkeeper. But I mean, 10 minutes into the second half, Nicholas Jackson got a decent chance for Chelsea. But sometimes I feel like he just doesn't score those. Like a Nicholas Jackson one-on-one. It's just, no. It didn't do much. Shocker. Pedro Neto actually had a good, but totally savable shot in the 60th minute. And then, I mean, the game at that point was definitely like floating towards Chelsea. They had a good shot on the corner, but nothing serious. And then actually the best chance of the game came in the 80th minute. Vissa for open header. No, excuse me. Vandenberg for Brentford had an open header. Completely missed it. Completely whiffed it. Would have scored if he got any decent connection. Vissa then had a good chance right after for Brentford. But yeah, I mean, this game's kind of boring. I mean, that's how it is. Some games are good. Some games are kind of boring. That's how this game works. You know, if every game was good, then none games would be good. If every game was boring, then no game would be boring. No, every game would still probably be boring. With this dropping of points, Chelsea's still in fourth. Though Newcastle behind them does have a game in hand, so that could be detrimental. But they are ahead of Manchester City by 1 point. They're sitting fourth, Champions League spot. Brentford are kind of slipping down towards the table away from European spots. Right now, they are sitting 12th with 42 points, and they are out of, they're if 8th place gets a European spot, they're 6 points away, which would be Fulham. And they're 22 from relegation, so they're safe. 21 is the max amount of points that anyone can get from this point forward. So this good Brentford team will be in the Premier League next year, which I don't think was ever in doubt. But yeah, they're getting further away from Champions League spots when they drop points like this. And considering they had better chances, you kind of expect them to do it. But then we're gonna get to Fulham, Liverpool. This one went not the way I thought it was gonna go. Start of the game, there was a giveaway in the box by Konate for Liverpool, but it didn't really amount to anything. And then it felt like one of those just standard Liverpool games for the year. 14 minutes in, Alexis McAllister hit a wonderful shot after winning the box in the middle of the field. Kind of just pushes some guys off. Guy's bigger than him, and he just hit the perfect shot from outside the box. And again, it just looked like every other Liverpool game this season, where they can get up on you and then counter you to death and just never let you get comfortable. But then Fulham made it interesting. 22nd minute. Timothy Castagna gets by his guy, sends in a cross. Konate misses it. It hits Curtis Jones. He doesn't even see it coming. Sessegnon gets one shot, puts it away with conviction, and in the 22nd minute, it's tied up. And then Fulham, to the surprise of me, they press well. They capitalize off an Andy Robertson poor clearance, and Iwobi puts away a fine finish. And just like that, I was going like, wow, Fulham are up 2-1 in this game. That's 3 goals in the first 32 minutes. And then not even 5 minutes later, Rodrigo Munoz, makes it 3 for Fulham. He overpowers Van Dijk for a ball in the air, which is rare, considering Van Dijk's one of the strongest center backs in the world. It's a great finish, and then it's 3-1 after 38th minute. I was surprised as hell going into the first half. Not in a million years, but I thought Fulham would be up by 2 goals. Tied, yeah. Second half starts kind of slow. You're thinking to yourself, like, oh, can Fulham do it? And then Luis Diaz did make it interesting. 72nd minute. He gets a small chance, finally finishes it. It's 3-2. Harvey Elliott hit the crossbar with a thumping shot in the 79th minute. And from that point on, though, Liverpool really weren't able to produce any chances. Fulham held strong and won the game 3-2, which it's a great result for Fulham. We're going to talk about where the team sit. Obviously, Liverpool's first. Benefiting from the fact that Arsenal did drop points against Everton, because it would be 9 points instead of the 11 points difference. Fulham are currently sitting in 8th, which may be the last Champions League spot at 48 points. They're sitting 3 behind Aston Villa, and in top 5 is 5 points away. Obviously, with them being in 8th, relegation is not a threat at this point in the season. But we need to talk about Liverpool. We're gonna do that here in a minute. So yeah, these are where the two teams are sitting in. And now let's talk Liverpool in the grand scheme of what is going on and what is worth talking about. Something's going on in Liverpool. They've been shaky, and they've been shaky for a while now. And fortunately for them, they've built up this kind of gap between them and a pretty heavily injured Arsenal team that's been an insurance in the Premier League. And the fact that some of these shaky results haven't been in the Premier League. But if you look back in their last 6 games, since the first leg against PSG, they have 3 wins and they have 3 losses, no draws. They didn't really play good in their first win against PSG, and they didn't really play great in their most recent win against Everton. They did earn their win against Southampton, but they've since lost to PSG, Newcastle, and Fulham 3 of their last 4 games. Right now, it seems like they're going to limp over the finish line towards the season with their one trophy, which is going to be the Premier League. Because, I can't imagine a world right now where Arsenal come back, especially if they continue to focus on just the Champions League. But something looks off with Liverpool. They haven't really been producing. Mo Salah's slowed down during this slump, really hasn't scored much. And, while this team has had a great season and definitely deserves to be champions, there were times of the season where it's like, okay, if Salah leaves next year, how bad is this going to hurt them? Because it felt as though in many games he has carried them, which is what you expect great players to do. You can't really blame anyone in this situation. If you've got a great player, you want a great player to carry you when you're having a bad game. But when he's not playing well, you need your other players to step up. And Liverpool just really haven't done that. I mean, this game against Fulham, besides the Southampton game, was the first time in like 5 games they've scored more than 1 goal. And it was in a loss. They're playing out the back, just all of a sudden just feels like it went to crap. I mean, they made so many mistakes against Fulham. They made plenty of mistakes against PSG. They couldn't really get into a rhythm against Newcastle. Newcastle, I think really up until Tonali came on, fundamentally dominated that game and shut Liverpool down. And maybe it's a lucky break that Liverpool have taken this long into the season to really start to drop off, struggle, or maybe have been figured out. But something's going on here. They'll get away with it. And they'll win their second Premier League title in recent years, tying Manchester United up for the most first division titles in England. But if they're going to continue to have success under Arne Slot in the future, going forward, Liverpool may want to figure out what's going on. And if you lose a couple key players who are up for contracts, could get a little interesting. This is going to be interesting for Liverpool. They got a week to, maybe try to get things right, and they host West Ham, who've been shaky this season. So maybe this is the game they need to right the ship. Because if they don't, I don't think pressure will build up, but people are going to start to wonder what's going on with Liverpool.
Next up, we had Tottenham versus Southampton. I believe this was the first game on Sunday. And, we're gonna jump straight towards the end of why this is significant. I mean, Brennan Johnson scored in the 13th and 42nd minute. Tottenham was up 2-0 at halftime. Mateus Fernandes for Southampton did get a goal back in the 90th minute, and then Matthias Tell for Tottenham scored a penalty in the 96th minute. Which this result, it moves Tottenham to 14th with 37 points. Really far away from European contention. 14 points from a European spot to overcome, as well as a significant amount of teams in front of them with 7 games to go. But the main discussion of this game is Southampton. Southampton are the first team this season in the Premier League to be relegated. They're sitting 20th after 31 games with 2 wins, 4 draws, 25 losses, a negative 51 goal differential, and a whopping 10 points. And this had been coming. It wasn't even a matter of if Southampton was going to get relegated over the last couple of weeks. It was a matter of, is Southampton going to be the worst team in Premier League history? From day one, it was pretty evident that this side wasn't good enough to stay in England. There has been some, positives. Tyler Dibbling looks really good. But, at the best, he's going to earn Southampton a decent transfer fee. This has been coming. They fought hard. I don't think there's a team in the Premier League that doesn't fight hard. Except maybe Man United, it feels like sometimes. But, they still do kind of have a lot to play for, because with the 7 games to go, I think Southampton's, and everyone involved with that team, whether it's, the owners, the coaches, the players, I think they're going to look past the fact that they're going to get relegated. I think they're going to get over the fact that they've been relegated. At this point, I think the biggest motivation for Southampton is getting those 3 points and not being worse than that. I want to say 2008, 2009, Derby County, around that time, maybe 2007, 2008, that recorded 12 points. Because Southampton's on 10, which means they need 3 points, 1 win or 3 draws for their final 7 games to avoid the record. And I don't think they'd like to tie either. I can't imagine anyone would like to tie that record. Their remaining schedule is tough, though. I mean, they've got Villa, so maybe Villa will rotate for the PSG tie at home. They go to West Ham, who are inconsistent. They're at home to Fulham, who are also, they're fighting for European spots. They're away at Leicester, who are going to be fighting not to be relegated, though it may be over by then in 4 games tied. They're home against Manchester City, who may be fighting for Champions League spots. They're away at Everton, who will be kind of a lame duck, so maybe that would be a good chance. And they're at home against Arsenal, and I think the Premier League title fight's going to be over by them, so Arsenal will no longer really be a contender. So maybe that's another kind of lame duck situation. I want to say there's 3 points here, but with the Southampton team, that's incredibly poor, and they've only picked up points in 6 of their 31 games, less than 1 out of every 5. It's going to be incredibly tough going forward. I hope for their sake they don't break the record, because I remember the good Southampton teams. I remember when they finished 7th. Mauricio Pochettino, Virgil van Dijk, Sadio Mane, Adam Lallana. These were good teams, and they're not anymore. To wrap up the weekend, before we get into the Monday Premier League game or any of the other games across Europe, it was Manchester United versus Manchester City. It was pretty boring. Manchester derby. Manchester derbies in the past had more meaning. This one did not. I mean, obviously, Man City's fighting for European spaces, and I think Manchester United's just trying to get it over with. And both teams had some okay chances. Again, this was a game that really wasn't worth writing home about. It was low-key. It was quiet. Really, again, boring. And with that, Man City's currently sitting 6th at 52 points. They're behind Newcastle on 53 points, who has a game in hand. So they're a point behind Champions League spots. Right now, if the season ended, they'd probably be going to the Europa League. I mean, they do have the FA Cup going for them, which would be nice. I mean, believe me, Manchester City could use a consolation. With this, Manchester United are currently sitting 13th, lucky number 13, 38 points. They're 4 behind Brentford. They are 10 points behind 8th place, which may be a Premier League spot that will get you in Europe, as I've mentioned a couple times. And they're 18 points ahead of relegation with 7 games to go, which for the most part means they'll mathematically not be relegated. And I already harped on Manchester United earlier in this episode and all their issues, so I think it's time to flip it and kind of get on Man City. This 0-0 draw, Manchester United versus Manchester City, is honestly Manchester City's season in an entire microcosm of 90 minutes. Boring and uninspiring. Pep Guardiola teams in the past were never boring. They could be suffocating. They necessarily didn't play with the most flair. Tiki-taka could be slow at times. Just death by possession. It was like a death by a million paper cuts. But boring? Never. There's plenty of fantastic highlights of those Barcelona teams, the Bayern Munich teams, and these early, hell, even last year, Manchester City teams. But for some reason, the uninspiring play by this Manchester City team this season has just been shocking, surprising, uninspiring. I might have said uninspiring twice, because they're a team that makes you lose your mind. They're boring. They don't really have fight, passion, fire. Maybe in a couple games with Arsenal this year, they seemed fire up. Never on a week-to-week basis. They limped out of the Champions League. They had many poor results in the league phase of the Champions. They've had plenty of games in the Premier League where they've looked poor. Their attack's stalled. Haaland's hurt. Maybe he'll be back by the FA Cup final or semifinals. And this team's just kind of sad. Kind of needs a reboot. I mean, Guardiola's not going to leave. You can't force Guardiola out. Maybe other teams would switch their manager after this year, but Manchester City's not. This guy's brought you too much. He's too successful. I wouldn't do it. Maybe it's spending a lot in the summer, which would drive people crazy, because Manchester City and money will always drive people crazy, especially with everything going on with all the cases. I'm not going to get into that, but for the time being, it's rough. It's rough to watch, and hopefully it gets better. I mean, not a lot of people agree with me in that statement, but I'd rather watch a good football team than an uninspiring team, and that's exactly what Manchester City are. I mean, hell, I've said uninspiring 6 times now at this point. If that's not getting the point across, I don't know what will. So the final game in the Premier League was on Monday. By the time I was really recording, it was going on, so I didn't really get the good observation of this one. Gonna kind of spark notes it. In the few weeks we got going forward, it shouldn't be a problem. There's 10 10 Premier League games and decent midweek games in other leagues. But then again, we also have the Champions League, Europa League, and Conference League quarterfinals. So it's gonna be a busy couple of weeks for me. But yeah, Leicester hosted Newcastle. Newcastle got after it early. Jacob Murphy goals in the second, 11th minute. Harvey Barnes then getting one in the 34th. The Carabao Cup champions from this year really just put Leicester away. Not looking good for Leicester for the rest of the season. With this result, Newcastle are sitting in 5th. 53 points, tied with Chelsea. They have a game in hand, which goes a long way. If they were to win or get a point, they'd jump over Chelsea. But yeah, if the season ended right now, they would be sitting in a Champions League spot, that 5th extra spot, which would automatically promote them to the league phase. Leicester right now are sitting in 19th. They are 15 points clear of safety with 7 games to go, which means they need to win every game, basically. 6 wins, probably get it. And that's if Wolves didn't pick up another point for the rest of the season. It's a good team and a bad team. Newcastle are a good team. They've won a trophy this year. They're going to be in Europe next year. Leicester, they were a good team at one point. I remember when they won an FA Cup. I even remember even farther back, 9 years ago, when they won the Premier League. I remember when they were in the Champions League, made it to the quarterfinals, beat Sevilla, gave Atletico Madrid a run for their money. But that was it. I think when they were in the Europa League, they were pretty uninspiring after that FA Cup title. But yeah, that's it really for this one. Leicester's going down. Newcastle's playing in Europe. Now it's the final Premier League game. But we still got plenty. We got a couple games from other leagues to go over. We're going to run through this pretty quickly because, at this point, we're in the hour 36-minute mark, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. Definitely the longest podcast I've ever had. So if you made it this far, I really do appreciate you. But there were good games in other leagues. And we're going to speed run them a little quick. We'll speed run. We'll speed run never hurt no one. We'll start in Spain where, it really came off as both Real Madrid and Barcelona just didn't want to make a move to potentially win the title. Real Madrid, they hosted Valencia. They missed a penalty. Give up a goal in the 15th minute to Diakby. Vinicius Jr. does make up for the missed penalty in the 50th minute, but then Hugo Doro in the death of the game, 95th minute. Real Madrid lose. Huge dent in their title race with Barcelona. Even more of a dent when you realize Barcelona also dropped points. Looked like it was going to be their game at home as Gavi gave them a lead in the 7th minute, but Natan for Real Betis tied up the game in the 17th minute, and the final score remained 1-1. Atletico Madrid did the most they could do. They ended a month-long winless run, 6 games in total. They defeated Sevilla. They kind of had to come back. Sevilla went up 7-0 in the first minute. Julian Alvarez got a penalty in the 25th, and Pablo Barrios in the 93rd minute gave Atletico Madrid a 2-1 lead, with the state of the Spanish league being that Barcelona are at the top with 67 points. Again, everyone has 8 games to go. Real Madrid are 4 points behind them at 63 points. Atletico Madrid are at 60. So they've kind of fallen off, taken a step back. Real Madrid really could have done serious damage to Barcelona this weekend, but they dropped the points to Valencia. Now it's a 4-point gap. And right now it's looking like 5 Champions League spots will also be allocated to Spain, similar to England with the extra performance spots. And right now, Athletic Bilbao has a pretty decent hold on 4th place. They're 54 points with 30 games to go. Villarreal is one of the teams with a game in hand. They're sitting at 48 points. And then Real Betis is currently tied with them on 48 points, sitting 6th, right outside. But again, Villarreal has that game in hand. And right now in Spain, it's looking like Real Valladolid, Las Palmas, and Leganes are the teams that are going to go down. But yeah, no, we do have a title fight. It's going to be really interesting to see how Barcelona and Real Madrid balance out their remaining games with the league. They both have the Copa del Rey final, as I mentioned. Real Madrid is in the quarterfinals of the Champions League against Arsenal. Barcelona are in the quarterfinals of the Champions League against Dortmund. I think there's a serious argument to be made that both are favorites of their respective games or ties. So it's gonna be a really good title fight. Definitely one to keep watching as the season goes on. We're gonna move to a league that I don't know if it's gonna have a title fight because Bayern Munich did defeat Augsburg 3-1 on the weekend. Augsburg got a red card at the 59th minute, and while the game was 1-1, and from that point on, it was just all Bayern Munich. Musiala, Harry Kane scored. There was an own goal, and it was a 3-1 victory overall. The team that is chasing them, Bayer Leverkusen, did pull out a last-minute gift after playing pretty poorly at Heidenheim. Emiliano Buendia got a 91st minute goal to keep Bayern Munich honest in this year's Bundesliga title race. Dortmund have been disappointing most of the season, but they did defeat Freiburg, a team they are sitting pretty close within the table for potential European spots, as they are also a team that's going to be balancing remaining Champions League ties as they play Barcelona, as I just mentioned. And just for the sake of them being a quote-unquote bigger team, RB Leipzig defeat Hoffenheim 3-1. So right now, Germany is they're going to have 4 spots. Right now, Bayern Munich and Bayer Leverkusen are in a title chase. There's 6 games left, and there's 6 points difference. That's 2 wins. So if Bayer Leverkusen can just make up the points in 2 games, that's a title fight. As for the other 2 Champions League spots, Eintracht Frankfurt is sitting at 48 points. Mainz is sitting at 46 points. RB Leipzig sitting right behind them at 45. Mönchengladbach 44. So it is pretty tight. Freiburg and Dortmund aren't too far away at 42 and 41. Right now, Stuttgart and Bielefeld are in the cup final, like I previously mentioned in the podcast. So if one of them wins, that's going to get the Europa League spot. So you're probably going to have to finish top 6 in Germany this year to finish in Europe. And right now, Borussia Dortmund are 7th, which is not a terrible spot to be considering how poor they were in the beginning of the season. Leipzig's kind of doing better this season. And right now going down, it looks like it's going to be Holstein, Kiel, and Bochum, with Heidenheim sitting in the playoff spots, where they'll play a team from a lower division. But let's move to Italy. We're rolling through these other leagues. Italy's currently sitting at 31 games, which is the same as England. And really, the consensus from England this weekend was nobody wanted to win. First up, Inter couldn't defeat Parma. 2-2 draw. They blew a 2-0 lead. Milan played Fiorentina. 2-2 draw. Fiorentina blew a 2-0 lead. Atalanta dropped points at Lazio. 1-0 loss. Roma and Juventus played to a 1-1 draw. And Napoli on Monday had a 1-0 lead for a good amount of the game at Bologna, and they dropped points. So how's Italy looking? We haven't talked in a while. Maybe we haven't had this podcast in a while. Inter are currently sitting at 68 points, and Napoli are 3 points behind them. Atalanta have really fallen off over the last couple of weeks, despite their really strong plus 33 goal differential. They're currently 7 points behind Napoli and 10 points behind Inter Milan, with 7 games remaining. So it looks like going forward, Inter and Napoli are going to be the title fight. Right now, it also looks like that Italy is only going to have 4 Champions League spots. So those spots would be taken up by Atalanta, as I previously mentioned. Bologna has really turned their season around. They only have 4 losses. They just had a lot of draws in the beginning of the season. You could say the same for Juventus, who are within a point of each other. Bologna is sitting 4th at 57 points. Juventus 5th, 56 points. And then it's a little tight. Lazio's right behind them at 55 points. Roma's at 53. Fiorentina's at 52. AC Milan's at 48. I think it's going to be a stretch for Milan to get into Europe. Right now they are 5 points behind 7th place Roma, which, provided Empoli doesn't win the Italian Cup, is how it's going to look. Right now, the teams that are looking like they're going to go down are Monza, Venezia, and Empoli, the same team, again, that's in the Italian Cup. Yeah, it's overall just a disappointing season for Milan. I know at times I was very hard on Juventus, but if they can get into the Champions League, they have all my respect. They just, 1 million draws. 14 draws is just insane at this point in the season. I think you could say the same thing about Bologna, but this is a Bologna team that finished top 5 last year. And they're currently on pace to finish top 5 this year. And that's really impressive. So, Italy, you can make the argument Italy's the most entertaining league to look forward to over the next couple weeks. 3-point title fight, which is closer to anywhere else in Europe. 6 teams within 6 points, ranging from 2nd place to 8th place. What's better than that? And then, you got Milan, not too far behind them, who can get points from anyone. I will say I do think the 10 to 16 range in Italy is a little bit weaker than maybe say a Spain or England. So you're having less likely smaller teams. I hate using the word smaller, but smaller teams stealing points here or there. But Parma did it. They're sitting 15th, 16th. And they got points off Inter. It was a bad weekend for everyone, but going forward, it's gonna be a league to look out for. Inter's still in Europe. I think 1 or 2 other of these teams are still in Europe. I don't think any other Italian teams are still in the Champions League, but maybe the lower European leagues. Okay, so Lazio is still in the Europa League. They've got Bodo Glimt out in Norway, which they should take care of, and then they play the winner of Tottenham or Eintracht Frankfurt, which would be a tough one. And then Fiorentina are still in the Conference League. They're playing some team from Slovenia, which I'm not even going to try to pronounce. And they'll most likely face Real Betis in the semifinals. And if they can make a run, they could potentially play a team like Chelsea in the final. I don't think the Italian coefficient is going to catch up to Spain or England, but I think there's plenty of examples of teams in Italy, so it's Inter, Lazio, and Fiorentina, who still have European aspirations to play for. Inter and Milan still having a cup game to play for, and Bologna still having potential cup games to play for, because Bologna will probably go through to the final. So yeah, I mean, Italy, I might start talking about Italy more. Damn, this is looking good. So now we got to talk about the French league. And I neglect the French league. PSG won the title. And it's great for them. It's the first top 5 league to have a winner. But it's hard to look at it as a top 5 league. I mean, from a European standpoint, like, there's not another French team that's good. Other French teams are not really at the level of like Porto or Benfica out of Portugal. And half the time, there's a Dutch team in Europe that's playing better than another French team. I mean, Lille put up a good fight against Dortmund, but this is a Dortmund team that also kind of stinks this year. But we still got to talk about it nonetheless. So PSG are title winners. They have won the French league with 6 games to go. On 28 games, they have 23 wins, 5 draws, no losses, a plus 54 goal differential, and they are now 22 points ahead of Marseille in second place. And I mean, it's hard to get excited about it the way if someone won the title in the other big leagues, because it's kind of expected. I mean, yes, I know Bayern Munich have their dominance in the German league, and Man City have been incredibly dominant as of late. Barcelona and Real Madrid, for the most part, run an unbroken duopoly of Spain. And there's been 4 teams actually, that have won the Italian league in the last couple of years. But there's something about the French league and PSG's dominance that's just really unappealing to me. I mean, all the respect in the world to them. You know, what are they going to do? Not win the title? You can't expect them to do anything else. And now they can focus all their attention on Europe, which I think they want. But when I read, you know, PSG wins title with 6 games to spare, their 4th straight League One title, God knows how many over the last 10 to 12 years, it just doesn't do it for me. If, you know, compared to what I find out whoever wins the other leagues. I mean, I know Liverpool's probably going to win in England. The French league's broken. PSG dominates. There's systematic problems with that. No other team's really capable of catching up. I mean, every, 5 or 6 years, Monaco or Lille or Lyon might be able to, you know, get them if they get lucky, if all the stars align. And that takes a lot. I mean, that takes a fundamentally bad PSG team. And I'll give PSG credit. They've really crafted their team well. And they seem to play together more than in like the Messi, the Messi, Mbappe, Neymar, Cavani eras, even back to the Ibrahimovic days. So yeah, PSG won. Whoop-de-doo. I don't know. This really doesn't do a lot for me in the grand scheme of the soccer that I care about. So that wraps up all the games. We're now going to get into the one segment, Podium News. The top 3 news stories from around soccer that stand on the podium. It's been a couple weeks since we've released an episode due to some equipment issues. So I've got a wide range of stuff we can talk about. And we're going to break it down 3, 2, 1. Number 3, Manchester United are getting a new stadium. And apparently, as I read online, it's going to be called New Trafford, which I do not hate at all. I actually find that hilarious, but in a serious way. Like, I think that's a good name for the stadium, and it makes me chuckle that they're just like, you know what, let's just call it New Trafford. It's going to be a 100,000 seat stadium, which will make it the largest in England. It should be ready as of right now in the 2030-31 season. The estimated cost right now is sitting at £2 billion, and there's going to be a giant canopy sitting over it in early drawings, and it's going to make it look like a circus venue. That part I hate. It looks awful. And I know it's supposed to represent the whole area and the other shopping, entertainment, or whatever's going on around the stadium, which I feel like is very American of them to do that. But Americans have gotten their grubby, greedy fingers all over the European sport. Yeah, I mean, it's good. You know, hopefully Manchester United can keep the Old Trafford. I mean, I feel like it's just such a historic piece of soccer history, soccer lore. So many great moments, so many great Manchester United moments, England national team. I'm sure games in tournaments that England have hosted. I did read some speculation that maybe the Manchester United women's team would take Old Trafford, which I think would be great. You know, the women's game just keeps growing and growing over there. So yeah, I mean, that's the first piece of news is Manchester United are getting a new stadium. Number 2 news story of the week. While not yet officially announced, it does appear that Trent Alexander-Arnold is heading to Madrid. Fabrizio Romano, many other news sources have commented on this, and it's been all over the news lately that Real Madrid have a kind of an agreement in place and that they're going to sign one of Liverpool's Champions League, Premier League winning, assist-making right back, one of their own, Trent Alexander-Arnold. I mean, this really just comes as a surprise because money-wise, Liverpool should be able to match anything that Real Madrid have to offer. It's not like this is Saudi money we're talking about. And it's surprising because, I mean, this is a Liverpool team that's coming off winning the Premier League. And I know Real Madrid have had significantly more success in the Champions League with their 6 or 7 titles in recent years compared to Liverpool's one. But this is one of your own. I mean, I've said it 4 times now. It's crazy. And it seems to be over. And there really hasn't been too much speculation from within Liverpool. And there hasn't been an official announcement. I don't know if there can be an official announcement yet, but he's out of a contract at the end of the year. He hasn't re-signed with Liverpool. And right now he can sign a contract to start on July 1st with Real Madrid. That's when the contract's reset in European football. So this is surprising. This is surprising me. I think it's surprising overall. And yeah, no, I mean, definitely going to be something we're going to look forward to hearing more about, and when he finally puts pen to paper. But it does look like Trent Alexander-Arnold is heading to Real Madrid to be their right back next year. And the top news story of the week, the head number 1, top of the podium, the winner, the national anthem we'll hear, this Formula One race, because I seem to be making all these Formula One references in my podcast, is Kevin De Bruyne has announced he is leaving Manchester City, which is just a huge statement. He's a club legend. At this point, as it stands on April 8th, he has played 414 games so far in all competitions for Manchester City. He scored 106 goals and 176 assists, which in total is 282 goals and assists in 414 games. That is greater than a goal and assist, half a goal and assist every game, which means 1 out of every 2, he's getting at least 1, and in a game, on average, he will more than likely get a goal or an assist. According to Transfermarkt Online, he played 8 different positions for Manchester City, mostly appearing as an attacking midfielder or what's colloquially known as a 10, and more than likely he's the best attacking midfielder ever played in the Premier League. I'm not big on comparisons. I don't think comparisons are necessary, and they ruin a lot of discourse behind soccer, but it's a newer position. There was never really an attacking midfielder in the days of the 4-4-2. There's really not a lot of room for an attacking midfielder in a 4-3-3, but with the modern 4-2-3-1, it's a newer position. I think the argument for him's solid. I mean, there's guys like Frank Lampard, but he was more of a number 8 box-to-box midfielder who could just still really crash the box well and score goals. But, you know, in this number 10 attacking midfielder role, I don't think we've ever seen one in the Premier League as good as Kevin De Bruyne. He will be leaving the Premier League and Manchester City, having won it 6 times. On top of that, in major trophies, he's won the Champions League once and 2 FA Cups. And just to add a little bit more, 5 League Cups and 2 Community Shields with Manchester City. I definitely think he's going to get a statue. I believe that's been announced, and if it hasn't been announced, it's inevitable. I think it's definitely, without saying, he's the greatest player Manchester City's ever seen. Erling Haaland does have the chance to be that one day, but as of right now, it is Kevin De Bruyne. And yeah, everything he's done in the Premier League is just great. I mean, he's fantastic. I mean, my first real significant Champions League memory with Manchester City was his goal against PSG that put him in the semifinals in 2015-16. He was a big part of when they won the title. You know, he had issues with injuries here or there, but all in all, he's a Manchester City legend. He's a Premier League legend. He's one of the greatest players to ever play the game. It's truly been an honor to watch him, even as someone like myself who isn't a Manchester City fan. You got to respect greatness for what it is. And what Kevin De Bruyne could do on the ball was special. And he was a special, special player. One of the best to ever do it. And yeah, alrighty. If you've made it this far into the podcast, we're about 1 hour and 53 minutes, a little shy under 2 hours. This is definitely by far the longest podcast episode I've ever had. If you've made it this far, I greatly appreciate you. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for listening. This is Talk Soccer to Me, an American soccer fan's perspective on everything that's going on in Europe and international football. Again, I mean, I'll say it over and over. We're at 2 hours at this point. If you're here, I love you. Follow on all the social medias. They're mentioned at the beginning of the episode. Tell your friends about it. Encourage people to listen to it. Thank you for being here. I love you. Have a good one. There's plenty of Champions League on this week. It's going to be super exciting. Europa League. There should be good games over the weekend. We'll have a new episode coming out after this one. Should come out Tuesday, April 15th. So I will see you then.